All right, so here's another issue in the pipe rules. If your pipe ends up above the surface, so maybe you've moved your whole pipe network over 20 feet and now it's above the surface. Now when you right click and apply the rules, it's going to go apply the rules. But it's going to put it down way too low, right? So it should be up here, but instead it's going like way down here. And why is that? Because Autodesk didn't debug their code properly. So how can we fix this? Right, in the previous video, I went through and showed you how you can fix the cover for a box culvert. And so this is fixing this issue. So going back in here, we can click on here, go back into Civil 3D and right click and apply the rules. And so we're going to come here. And our minimum cover for our pipe is that -9 value. And notice that we've just set the start elevation of the pipe to a value. So we're getting the new pipe Z elevation. So we're finding the elevation at the surface and subtracting the minimum cover, which is correct. And then we're setting the start elevation, but we haven't set the end elevation for this. And so what that's doing is when we look at the minimum cover here, so we have our initial pipe, which was sloping down this way. Here we're changing the start elevation. So we're moving the pipe down here and we're adjusting the start elevation, but our pipe is still going up here. So my surface was somewhere like below the pipe, but I haven't affected this end. So now when I do this check for a minimum cover, it's kind of pointless because the end elevation over here is in the wrong location. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this code to assume that I want to keep the same slope of the pipe. So I'm going to figure out and capture what this elevation difference is, and then also apply it to the end pipe. So then when the code checks for this minimum cover, I now have a copy of my pipe. It's just lowered to get the minimum cover. And then that way, this minimum cover will give me a more correct value rather than this pipe in red. So to do that, I'll go ahead and add in a variable and just call it elevation difference. And it's going to be O pipe start point dot Z minus D new pipe Z. And I might have the math wrong here, but let's see. And then the end elevation, and I'm passing it the pipe, is going to equal to the D, O pipe endpoint Z minus the elevation difference. And so if my math is correct, my pipe should have the same slope when I start it. So I'm just going to go ahead and introduce just a temporary one. I'll probably delete this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'll hit play. And so I can see it went way down. So I'll go ahead and move this up. I'll right click and apply the rules. So here I can see my slope is 1%. My elevation difference is 12. I'm going to go ahead and change the end elevation. And I'm getting a different one because the Z elevation difference is different. So I'm going to use a different approach to this. So I just need to set my slope formula. Right? So I'm just going to go grab this code. Which might be a little bit cleaner. And instead, I'm going to use the pipe slope. Pipe slope times D length. Yep. And so now my minimum cover is 3, and my D minimum cover is 3, which is the values that I would expect, because I've lowered the pipe down and kept the same slope. So this changes this first value. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the block of the if then, because then I need to come down here and do the same thing for the other flow direction from in to start. So this is going to be this line for the most part, but instead I want to set the start elevation. So we can come down here and check. Yep, so the formula is the same. And then that'll give me a good check of what the value should be. So now I can bring it up here. I can right click and apply the rules. I can come into my pipe properties. I can go to the part properties. And then I can see that my start cover is 3 feet, which is the value that I'd expect. So a pretty basic fix. I mean, it took me less than 20 minutes to identify the problem, look in the code, fix it. These aren't rocket science. I mean, this is just basic math and applying the pipe rules correctly.